Hey guys, welcome back to the Lucid Nightmare. I'm your host as always, Jay Schatzer. And today I'm bringing you one of my favorite movies. Well, my favorite fantasy and probably my favorite all-time movie ever. It is Ron Howard's 1988 fantasy epic, Willow. And if you've seen this one before and you got a soft spot for it, you know what I'm talking about. So let's get right into this, guys. Here is Willow. Willow is an exceptional fantasy film that is brimming with tall tales, fun adventures, and a cast of characters that truly make this movie an enduring personal classic of mine. Though it has sadly proven to be an underappreciated gem among the masses of moviegoers. Directed by Ron Howard and imagined by George Lucas, this magical film showcases a wide breadth of familiar fantasy archetypes, while still managing to create something that feels fresh and exciting. With a world that feels wholly realized and a visual history blooming from within its fast-paced and beautifully rendered runtime, Willow is an 80s fantasy entry that truly nails the wonder that these films elicit to an open and imaginative audience, and the amount of fun that there is to be had within this flick is tremendously copious and extremely satisfying. The film begins with a prophecy which foretells the demise of the evil sorceress Queen Bavmorda by the hands of an infant Daikini child named Elora Danan. This baby of the prophecy, born under the oppressive rule of Bavmorda, is secreted away by a midwife and sent down a river in hopes that somehow her destiny will unravel and the prophecy will come to be true. Lending a hand with fate, the child comes into the unlikely care of a young Nelwyn named Willow Offgood, who, though short on stature but tall on heart, takes the baby in against his own better judgment. After his village is attacked by a savage beast, which has been sent by Bavmorda to track down the child, Willow presents his unexpected discovery to the village council. After much deliberation, they deem it necessary to take the baby outside the village borders and deliver it to any Daikini willing to take her in. This sets into motion an adventure that takes Willow, a humble farmer and aspiring sorcerer, far past the safe borders of his town and into a world filled with sorcerers, warriors, and creatures beyond belief. Determined to keep the innocent Elora Danan safe from harm, Willow sets off on a journey that introduces him to a rogue swordsman named Mad Mardigan, a pair of pint-sized creatures called brownies, and a powerful sorceress named Fin Raziel, who has been trapped in an animal form by the maleficent Queen Bavmorda. Together, this ragtag group of heroes must traverse the dangerous wilds of this savage and war-torn land in hopes that they make it unscathed to Tir Asleen, where the child will be safe and the prophecy will be fulfilled. No adventure goes perfectly to plan, and with the case of Willow's unexpected journey, it's those thrilling and surprising moments that really inject a sense of fun into this adventure. Get ready, because this is one fantasy world that you won't soon forget. Warwick Davis plays the role of the titular character Willow, and he brings an aura of experience to his family-centric performance, which defies the fact that he was only 18 years old when he took on the demanding role. With this being his first attempt at leading a film, you'd be hard-pressed at finding fault with his actions and overall portrayal of the courageous little farmer who never gives up. In fact, I've got nothing but praise for Warwick, seeing that he must have had an overwhelming sense of pressure put on his shoulders when given the opportunity to headline such an ambitious film as this one. What I think is most compelling about Davis's journey in the movie, and in taking on the role in general, is that each individual situation mirrors each other so closely that I tend to find it inspirational that we get an opportunity to view both the cinematic and real-world journey that the actor takes on. This dual existence gives the whole experience an added bit of depth. It comes off as nothing less than magical. Warwick Davis's performance is heartfelt and genuine in its portrayal, allowing for the heart of the film to really shine in this representation of this highly enduring character. Another standout in this film is the role of Elora Danan, played by one-time actresses Ruth and Kate Greenfield. These twin sisters may be just infants wearing auburn-colored wigs, all the while restricted by swaddling wraps, but damn, they can make some of the most expressive facial expressions. I don't know how much Ron Howard spent on directing the two, while he waited for that perfect reaction, but this infant team really hit it out of the park. I feel kinda silly praising the acting work of two newborn babies, but every time I watch this film, I'm floored by how diverse and pertinent their expressions are when the time comes for them to interact with the rest of the cast. It sounds ridiculous to say, but without the memorable moments that their collaborative efforts were able to bring to the film, I doubt that we would have cared as much for the character of Elora Danan or the fulfillment of the prophecy. As great as both Warwick Davis and the twins are in this film, none of them bring as big of a spark to the fun of the film as Val Kilmer in the role of the greatest swordsman that ever lived, Mad Mardigan. This is the role that Kilmer was born to play. He brings so much energy and charisma to the character of Madmartigan that I couldn't imagine the role being filled by anyone else. His mannerisms, his looks, and his dialogue are just so iconic within this film that I find it impossible to withstand its charm and appeal. Kilmer reportedly ad-libbed most of his dialogue, and the creative fluidity of this approach seemed to have paid off. The character brings so much life to the narrative and such a tremendous aspect of fun to the proceedings that I'd expect that the movie would be far less entertaining and engaging without his presence and the outstanding performance that Kilmer infused into the role. The flashy nature in which he wields his sword, the daring heroics that showcase his bravado, and the smart-ass lines that come out of his mouth are priceless, and without any of these, Willow the film would be far less of an enjoyable experience. Paired up with Val Kilmer's Madmartigan in a classic romantic angle that befits Han Solo and Leia's turbulent courtship is Joanne Whaley in the role of Sorsha. Ever since watching this movie in my youth, I've been smitten with the character of Sorsha. Whaley allows a fire to grow within her rebellious portrayal of the seasoned warrior, and her breathtaking looks and jaw-dropping passion is a perfect match for Kilmer's rogue swordsman. It isn't surprising that after meeting on the set of Willow, the two got married in real life. Though they divorced after only 8 years of marriage, I'd still like to imagine that they're together off in cinema land somewhere, but that's just a weirdo movie lover in me. Anyways, Whaley does a tremendously enchanting job as Sorsha, and the chemistry that Val Kilmer and her share ignites up the screen whenever the two come together. There may be an abrupt character turn within the arc of her role, in which casual viewers will gripe about, but on the whole, Whaley nailed the atmospheric pull of her character, making for a strong female role that is both fierce and feminine while being completely and utterly sexy. The amount of memorable characters in this film could make for a rather lengthy book, and each one of them has a distinct factor that aids in the fleshing out of the story and the ultimate feel of the world that Lucas has created. Take The Side of Good, for instance, where we are given the interesting characters of Finn Raziel and the two brownies Rule and Frangine. Throughout the entire film, Finn Raziel is played by a series of random animals, from a muskrat to a crow, to a goat, and then finally into her human form, played by Patricia Hayes. Hayes does a wonderful job both in front and behind the camera, for she provides the voice of all of her various animal incarnations. Her interactions with Willow and Madmartigan are humorous to say the least, and that can also be said for the brownies in their respective roles. Kevin Pollak plays the role of Rule, while Rick Overton takes on the character of Frangine. Both brownies are a hoot to watch, and even though they provide nothing more than comic relief and another flavor of this fantasy-driven world, their presence brings another bit of depth to the narrative, and the perspectives that their tiny stature provides are highly entertaining and unusual to boot. Now on the side of evil we have Queen Bavmorda herself, played by the wickedly good Jean Marsh, and her intimidating juggernaut General Kale, played by Pat Roach. These two are the epitome of evil, and their individual looks are outstanding. With the case of Queen Bavmorda, she is always draped in dark robes which cover her mummified wrappings, encased around her body, and Marsh looks absolutely frightening in the role. Her venomous disposition and menacing appearance makes for an iconic villain that truly defines the character classification. I love her portrayal of the power-hungry sorceress who would even kill her own child if it defied her orders. Marsh's performance is vividly grotesque, and her presence in the film is potent to say the least. General Kale as well has a powerful existence in the movie, with a visually expressive look that strikes fear in that cinematic sense of things. Covered by a skeletal mask that strongly resembles the dread that Darth Vader's mask inflicted on his viewers, Kale proves to be a force to be reckoned with within the context of the movie. Pat Roach and his bulky and intimidating frame go a long way in instilling a sense of dread into the audience whenever he appears, as he provides another villain for this masterpiece that is not so easily shaken from one's mind. Needless to say, the characters in Willow are among cinema fantasy's most iconic and memorable. As outstanding as the cast is, they wouldn't be much to look at without an equally amazing world to interact with, and in the case of Willow, the film has an abundance of awe-inspiring locations and tremendously inventive techniques to bring the fantasy realm of Willow to life. If you're a lover of masterfully done matte paintings, then this is the film for you, because this production has some of the most brilliantly conceived and eye-opening creations that the fantasy genre has ever put out. We are presented with a number of establishing shots that look culled straight from a dream. From cascading waterfall backdrops to looming castles in the distance, to sparkling ivory palaces, to picturesque mountainous landscapes, this movie has it all, and each iteration is painstakingly rendered to look absolutely enchanting. If you look at it in more modern fantasy terms, Willow's use of matte paintings to establish its sprawling world could be compared to the Lord of the Rings trilogy and its effective use of swooping aerial shots to capture the look and feel of Middle-earth. Each technique is effective in its own sense, but sadly the use of matte paintings seemed to be on a downward spiral by the time Willow wrapped up production. Still, the nostalgic wonder of this type of filmmaking adds to the magic that is Willow. And unfortunately, it's a technique we won't see resurrected anytime soon. Along with the outstanding landscapes and locations that Willow provides, the filmmakers made a huge effort in inhabiting this fictional realm with some rather breathtaking and often grotesque creatures. There are some that are fantasy genre staples, such as the fairies and the trolls, and then others that have been twisted into the film's own unique standard of creations, as is the instance with the two-headed dragon creature called Ebersisk. This stop-motion wonder is a real treat, and like the technique of matte painting, the use of stop-motion animation in this film marks an end of an era for the stylistic approach to bringing fictional creatures to life. In the instance of this film, each of these creations looks fully realized and strikingly effective in their respective designs, and you can tell that a lot of work and love went into their conception and placement within the world. After tackling the long list of characters and discussing the positive aspects of the filmmakers' attempts to make a believable and inhabited world, where else could I go from here? Well, the action and memorable moments of the film, that's where. This movie has an abundance of awesome and spectacular set pieces that just grab you and take you for one hell of a ride. Without a doubt, the fantasy film Willow is an epic adventure that pulls out all the stops in delivering a movie that is just packed to the gills with fun and entertaining stuff. Willow is a classically presented fantasy film that goes above and beyond the call of duty as it delivers a story that is enthralling, emotional, and downright fun. Shamefully shunned during its release and wrongfully prosecuted, the movie is an inspirational portrayal of good against evil and the epic struggle that we all have in proving our worth to the world. Warwick Davis gives a landmark performance as Willow, the loving husband and father who left the safety of his home and family behind in order to protect the life of an innocent child that he had quickly come to love. The inclusion of Val Kilmer as Mad Mardigan is absolute genius, and the personality and charisma that Kilmer was able to inject into the role of the greatest swordsman that ever lived is without a doubt my most favorite character in all of cinematic history. In fact, the pairing of Kilmer and Joanne Whaley's Sorsha is a match made in celluloid heaven. Overwhelmed with a stellar cast of characters and a fictional world in which was vividly and expertly portrayed, the film exudes an intoxicating atmosphere that just brings this fantasy realm to life. The locations and visual look of the movie is just top-notch, and the inclusion of some of the filmmaking's most treasured techniques like the use of stop-motion animation and matte painting work plays out like a beautiful swan song for the methods that made most of us film lovers fall in love with this cinematic medium. I've always been disappointed that this film didn't reach a bigger audience than it deserved, but I'm especially thankful for the hard work and dedication that went into creating this ambitious effort, even if it wasn't fully recognized in its time. They don't make movies like this anymore, and that's a sad statement indeed. If you're in the mood for a fun fantasy flick that sweeps you away from your normal everyday lives and into a realm where the impossible is possible, then give this one a try. There truly isn't anything like it out there, and if you're lucky, it might just capture your cinematic loving heart like it did mine. In the immortal words of Willow, after he witnesses how badass Mad Mardigan truly is, this movie is great. And there you have it, guys, my favorite movie of all time, Willow. You just can't go wrong with this one. I have so many fond memories of it, and it's just a hell of a lot of fun to watch. It's just an entertaining flick, and it's a downright classic of the genre. So I hope you liked that review. That's it for me today. If you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe. And if you'd like, please leave a comment below because I'd love to hear from you. But until then, guys, I will see you at the next movie review. Take care.